All right, here we go again. Time management, helping people get the most out of their time on this earth. A little cartoon. Why are we doing this? It's not a great mission statement, but we'll revise it if things get better. All right, what is a vision statement? I want to try to help you come up with a vision statement. Now you might be asking, okay, what does a vision statement have to do with time management? Time management is about figuring out what do you want to do with your life. And a vision statement is sort of the big picture. It's like stepping back and going, what is the big view, the long view of my life? But we're also going to be looking at personality traits and gifts and values. A vision statement asks what? What is it you're going to do with your life? Personality traits, gifts, and values ask how are you going to do those things? So there's what? What am I going to do? Like my vision is to play football. Personality traits, gifts, and values ask, well, how are you going to do it? What position are you going to play? What is going to be your thing? Discovering your values. So I want to first talk about discovering your values. Values are often characteristics or traits that are important to a person or an organization. So I'll give you some examples. Integrity, honesty, innovation, forgiveness. These are values, the things that are important to you. Questions to discover your values. So I have these on your worksheet. So if you want to spend some time going through these things, these questions will help elicit for you your values, the things that are valuable to you. So number one, what are some of the values your parents had? So for example, my dad had a value on creativity. My dad was into all kinds of things. He started 20 different businesses. My dad was big on responsibility. We moved out to the farm, and he wanted to teach. I was 15, my brother was 14, and he wanted to teach us responsibility. So we were going to build a barn. And so we ordered a load of gravel, a load of sand, 2 shovels, a wheelbarrow, a cement mixer, and bags of cement, and said, here you go. So we had to do the cement one wheelbarrow at a time. We had to milk cows. My dad was a fireman, so he worked a 24-hour shift. He was off, then he had to work a 24-hour shift. So he showed us how to milk cows. We grew up in the city, and all of a sudden we found ourselves on a farm. He showed us how to milk the cows one day, and off to work he went the next day. And we were responsible for those things. So what kind of what kind of values did your parents have? What did you grow up with? And what of those values have you taken on? What non-family member person, so someone outside of your family, maybe this was a teacher, maybe it was a coach, maybe it was a neighbor, did you look up to, and why? The way they taught you some things. Number 3, what Bible character or story inspires you and why? Number 4, what value would you like to be remembered for by your children and grandchildren? So as I think of my grandchildren growing up, and one day I'll die, Grandpa was always what? For me, I want Grandpa was always trying to inspire us. That's a value that I have, inspiration. I want to be inspired, and I want to inspire. I want to help people discover things they never discovered. That's what's fun for me. I like discovering. I like to see people discover. When I owned a sailboat in Vancouver, I had a friend come out to visit me, and we went out into the harbor of Vancouver, the mountains, and a beautiful place. And I had this 22-foot sailboat, and I took it out into the harbor. The wind was blowing, and I said, here's the tiller. I just handed him the tiller. I didn't teach him anything. I didn't say this is how it goes, this is how it works. If you want to turn this way, you got to pull it the opposite way. I didn't say any of that. I just said, here's the tiller, figure it out. And within 15 minutes, he figured it out. He had the biggest smile on his face. See, that was fun for me, to help someone discover something for the very first time. Number 5, what is it that you like about your friends? You know, maybe you like how they're positive, or they're funny, or they like doing things. Those become values for you. Being funny is a value for you, or being positive is a value for you. Number 6, what don't you like about certain people, and what would be the opposite of that? So maybe there's some certain people that are always complaining, always finding fault. And you go, I don't like that. Well, what's the opposite of that? Someone who's encouraging. Someone who's always seeing the good in other people. So maybe that's a value that maybe it's not even something that you do well, but it's something that you want to aspire to. That's a value. Number 7, what about people drives you nuts? And what is the opposite of that? So, you know, something you don't like, and then find the opposite. What kind of person do you wish you could be? So maybe you're not this kind of person, but you wish you were. How would you like to be treated by others? You know, this is how you want to be treated. Then maybe that's a value. Maybe you don't have it, but you want it. All right. Examples of values. So here I just listed, it's on your worksheet. These are just examples. So you can just go through and sort of circle ones that fit you. Accountability, freedom, reputation, cleanliness, confidence. That's a value for me. Diversity. I like different things. Enthusiasm. Absolutely. Resilience. Faith. Okay. Dreaming. I'm a dreamer. Daring. I like to be daring. Imagination. Playfulness. Adventure. Originality. So some of these are quite similar. You can see, you know, why I'm picking them. Here's a list goes on. Bravery, objective silence, tradition, collaboration, organization, frugality, self-awareness, experience, wisdom, politeness, yeah, you know, fairness, education. I like learning things. Punctuality, yeah, well, dependability, frankness, creativity. There's another one, open-mindedness, action, optimism. Okay. So just take some time and go through this list and circle ones, and then maybe, you know, this is a 1 for me. This is kind of the same thing, and, you know, maybe this is a 2. So you can go through and sort of rate these things. You know, this is number 1 for me. This is number 2 for me. Value statement. Okay, so once you figure out, you get a list of your values, make a list of your values and write 1 sentence for each one. So creative. So I like to be creative in everything. This wasn't a value for me, but until 5th grade. When I was in 5th grade, we had a paper mache class, and everyone was making little pigs and, you know, little silly things, and I didn't know what to make, and I had a penny in my pocket. I pulled it out, and so I made an Abraham Lincoln head. And then I made the whole body with a suit coat and the tie and the buttons and everything. And it was about this high. And my English teacher, Mrs. Friends, came walking down the aisle looking at what everyone did. And she stopped at my desk and looked at my Abraham Lincoln and looked at me and said, "You're creative." And I've been thinking that about myself ever since. That's a value to me. I want to be creative. I want to be known to be creative. So you know, I want sermons that are creative. I want to write creatively. I want to do this creatively. I want to be it. I can't say it. All right. So do that for yourself. What are those things? All right, so once you get a little handle of your values, those are the things that are really important to you. These are important to me. Somehow they should influence my vision for my life. Next, we want to assess our personality traits. Okay, this is kind of how we're made up. So I have sort of on your worksheet again, I have these pairs. There's introvert, extrovert. And then I have a line, and then put an X where you think you are. Now, if you're sort of introverted, introverts are like to be by themselves, and they're not that outgoing, not that talkative. Extroverts are, they want to be at every party. They want to do a lot of talking and so on. So maybe you're an introvert, so you'd put an X towards that side of the line. Or maybe you're an extrovert. I love talking. Or maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're a little bit of both. Sometimes you're an introvert, sometimes you're an extrovert. Putting an X in the middle doesn't mean that you're neither of these things. You could be equally both of these things. It just means this is where you are in the middle. And then do the same thing with thinker, feeler. I'm a thinker. I think a lot. And I'm analyzing things all the time. But I feel too. So, but I would say I'm slightly on the more than the thinker side. Positive, negative. I can be really positive. I can be, I would say I'm just slight, towards the positive on that side of it. Dreamer, doer. Again, I am an extreme dreamer, but I do a lot of things. But maybe I dream a little bit more than I do. Fun living and serious. Again, I'm probably in the middle. Risk taker, calculator. I'm way over here. I like risk taking. I like taking. I like doing things where I have a pretty good shot at failing, because those times when you succeed are just so cool. Talker, listener. I'm probably in the middle. I like to do a lot of talking, but I'm a listener as well. So analyze yourself. What are you? Because the reason this is important is because if you spend if you're an introvert, for example, and you spend a lot of your time in an extroverted world, you're on the phone a lot, you're having to talk to customers all the time, then you can see how it's not matching about who you are. Or if you're a feeler, but you're in a job where it requires a lot of analyzing, or vice versa. Or you're a dreamer, but you're working for a company that just wants you doing things. So analyzing who you are as a person, and then it's sort of like, okay, so what is my vision in my life? What should I be doing in my life that sort of fits who I am as a person? Assessing your spiritual gifts. So we've looked at your values. We've looked at your personality traits. Next, we want to assess your spiritual gifts. The Bible talks about spiritual gifts, Romans 12. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy according to your faith. If it's serving, then serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it's encouraging, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give generously. If it's leading, then lead. If it's showing mercy, okay? So as you go through this, I know, you could take a whole assessment thing. You could go to a whole seminar on this, and we're just kind of flying by it. But just off the top of your head, what would you circle? What gifts? I think I have the gift of leadership. I think I have the gift of teaching. I wish I had more of a gift of encouragement, but I would go 1, 2. I'm not that much of a servant. I'm more of a, maybe this is 3. I wish this was 2. Okay, so how would you rate yourself? This is Romans. Now we have 1 Corinthians 12. It's easy to remember. Romans 12, 1 Corinthians 12. To one there is given through the Spirit a message of wisdom. Another is knowledge, faith, healing, miraculous powers, prophecy, distinguishing or discernment, speaking in tongues, and then interpretation of tongues. Okay, so do any of these stand out to you? Okay, circle them. All right, a little comic here. Mr. Norlander, as your gift assessment consultant, I have the task of connecting you with the ministry you have tested most gifted to perform. After much deliberation, it is my conviction that you'd serve the church best as a pew sitter. I hope that's not you. What's the point? Why just come to church and sit in the pew? The purpose of the gifts. 1 Corinthians 12:7. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. Okay? The point of the spiritual gifts that God gives, by the way, a gift is something that you receive, right? At Christmas time, someone gives you a gift. You don't have it. You have it only when it's given to you. You open it up and all of a sudden there's this thing that you now have. You didn't have it before, you have it now. That's the way it is with spiritual gifts sometimes. It's not just that you happen to be good at something. You know, some things you're just, we'll talk about that in a minute. But a spiritual gift is a special gift that God gives, and He can just give it to you. You could not have the gift all your life. I did not have the gift of speaking at all. That was as far from me as possible. And in 9th grade, I was given that gift. There was no sign of it. There wasn't even a hint of it. And then all of a sudden, there it was. It's like God gave it to me, I opened it up, and there it was. And that might, so in other words, you can never give up on yourself. You can never say, this is who I am. I don't have that gift. I'm no good at these things. Well, who knows? Who knows what God may do for you? And the point of the gift is for the benefit of those around you. So being a pew sitter in church, no, you have a gift, a necessary gift. The body needs it. And if you're not using it, then the body is being hurt. Romans 12. Just as there are many parts to our bodies, we had hands, feet, eyes, so it is with Christ's body. We are all parts of it, and it takes every one of us to make it complete. For we each have different work to do. So we belong to each other, and each of us needs all the others. This verse was the first verse that we memorized at Pathway. We belong to each other, and each of us needs all the others. So if you're not contributing, if you are, the reason you might not be contributing is you don't know where to contribute. What's my gift? What am I good at? What are the things necessary in the church? I don't know. So that's what this whole workshop thing is about. What spiritual gifts do you think you have? So just go through those passages again, pray to God, and just, you can get it wrong. Don't be afraid. What are the gifts you think you have? What are the gifts you think you might have? What are the gifts you wish you had? All right. Assessing your natural gifts. So these are the spiritual gifts. What about your natural gifts? What are you good at without much effort? For some of you, you're going to go, I'm not good at anything. That's not true. Some of you are just natural cooks. Some of you are just naturally good at being kind. Some of you are naturally good at encouraging. You see something, you say something. You're sending little notes. You're calling people on the phone. You're liking people on Facebook all the time. There are things that you are good at. What are they? Write them down. Assessing your acquired gifts. What are you good at because you've worked at it? Some things you don't have to work at. You're just good at it. Music for me was always, I didn't have to work at playing the trumpet. I didn't practice, but I just happened to be good at it. Other things I've had to work at, reading. When I was in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, I was in the special class for the kids that couldn't figure this out. I could not comprehend. I would read something and it'd be like, I have no idea what I just read. And I had to work at it. My dad bought these books and he, we had to go through these books and he'd give us $1 for every book that we did. I had to work at it. And guess what? If you work at something, you can actually get good at stuff. So what are you good at because you worked at it? Make a list of these things. Don't be shy about it. This is just for yourself, okay? You're not bragging. You're not telling other people about it. But this is for you so that you can look and go, okay, who am I? What are my values? What's my personality traits? What's my spiritual gift? What are the things I'm naturally good at? What are the things I'm good at because I've worked at it? Questions to help you then with the vision statement. Okay, that's the topic. The big topic is vision statement. And we've looked at all these other things because in order to write a big vision for your life, You have to know what your personality is. You have to know what you're good at. You have to know what your gifts are. You have to know what your values are so that you can start going, okay, this is who I am, and therefore this is what I want to do with my life. Here's some questions that might help you think about it. Number one, what is the most important thing in your life? For me, God, family, okay? What's most important to you? What do you spend most of your time working on? Well, a lot of people go work. Well, why do you spend so much time working? Okay? What topic often keeps you up at night? Family? What concerns? What are the things that worry you? I guess that's number 4. What worries you most in life? What is your dream in life? What is your spiritual dream? Okay, I'm just going through these. You might want to stop the tape or do it some other time, but to actually answer all these questions. I know you're like, well, I don't have time. Yeah. If you don't make time, the world's just going to keep pushing. Remember the river I mentioned? You're just going to go in the river and you're going to float down. This is like stepping outside the river and going, where do I really want to go in life? And that takes some work. If you're not going to work at it, then you're just going to go with the flow. All right. Number 7, if someone gave you $1 million, what would you spend it on? Number 8, if you had to reduce what is most important to you to 2 things, what would those 2 things be? All right, for me, the most important things, as I mentioned, God and people. Okay? So God and people are the most important things in my life. So if I'm making a vision is just a step way back and look at your whole life and go, how do I think of it in just a sentence or 2 about what my vision for my life is that takes into account my values, my personality, my gifts, and what I want to do, what God has created me to do. So I know it has to do with God and people. Okay, so if I were to put it together, so I'm saying add personality traits, values, gifts to get your vision statement. If I were to do that, this would be the vision to my life. This is what I came up with. To walk with God every day. So God, remember, was one of my 2 things. Seeking and exploring His creative. Okay, you see how I worked in the word creative? Because that's one of my values. Creative will for my life, and then pursuing it with total reckless abandon. That's another value, to grab life and do it. Go for it. With enthusiasm. That was one of my values, enthusiasm. So that I can be a blessing. I want to make a difference in the lives of other people. An example of, be a blessing, an example, an inspiration. Remember, that was one of my values too. I like to be inspired. I like to inspire people. A partner to my wife, to my children, my friends, my church family, the kingdom, the world that I intersect with. Those are the 7 connections. So the 7 connections was part of my testimony. There's my relationship to God, my spouse, my family, my friends, my church, the kingdom, the world. Okay, so I'm working all those things that are important to me into one sentence. Okay, it's a complicated sentence. Now, I put this nicely together. Yours doesn't have to be nice. Just throw it together. Just write down words. They don't even have to be sentences. Remember, this is just for you. You're not getting tested on this. It doesn't have to go on some plaque on some wall. This is just for you. Try to just throw something down. If I were to give a longer version, and this is really from our mission statement at Pathway Church. I wrote it, and I wrote it probably because it related to me. As one who is saved by Jesus, I have a passion for Him, to follow, love, and serve Him, to worship, know, and honor Him, to walk and talk with Him, to share Him with others, to always ask, what would Jesus do, and then try to do it. This passion for Jesus influences how I work and play, how I create. There's that word again, create. I even worked it into Pathway's mission statement. I worked my value into, I hope you don't mind. Create, innovate. There it is again. How I relate to and care for others. How I do family. Okay, God and family, right? How I use my resources. How I interact with my world. Allowing Jesus to influence all I am and all I do is the walk with God, the Jesus way. That's our little tagline at Pathway. The Jesus way I seek. Okay, so give it a shot for yourself. Again, it doesn't have to be awesome. It just has to fit you. All right. You told me you'd spend your whole life trying to make me happy. I didn't expect to live this long. I love that. All right. So, what is your personal vision? So, what would you write? Okay. Daddy said we need to work as a team. That means you guys need to do what I say. Okay. What is your vision for friends? Okay, so, this one is, that cartoon related to your family. But, this whole process that we just did for your personal mission statement, you could also do for, your marriage. I guess I asked that. What's your personal vision? What's your marriage vision? What's your family vision? And finally, what is your vision for your friends, your church, your kingdom? So those 7 connections, you can do the same thing. So what's your personal vision? And then you could give a shout at, well, what's your family vision? What's your marriage vision? Our marriage is what? What's your friendship, your church vision, your kingdom vision, your vision for reaching people that don't know the Lord? So I've given you a lot of stuff, and you can do as little as you want. But the more effort you put into this, the more you're going to be able to get out of it.